All right. So hopefully everybody got a Scratch account last time, no problem there. It's worth it to sign in. Every once in a while I'm anxious to do something, I jump in and I start playing, and then it's obvious I'm not signed in because it doesn't have my name in the upper right corner. And there's a little button that says sign in to save this. And so I click that, it's saved online. It is still a good idea to back up when you have something open and do a save to the desktop or save to your computer just to have those. I brought some extra flash drives if anybody wants some as another backup medium. So let me know and I'll give those out in a little bit. Any questions about the readings in chapter 1 and chapter 2 yet? Not yet, okay. So I played around with a few things in Scratch the other day, and usually I do in all my classes, I have a random student generator, but I usually do it in a spreadsheet. And this time I said, oh, let's do it in Scratch for fun. So I have the cat here who is going to do a random student generator, and he picks Levi first. And so let's see, what should we ask Levi? Levi, do you remember how big the stage is that we have to play with pixel-wise?
You know, I know it's either 200 or 250.
Okay, so you want to ask for help from the audience here?
Oh, it's not it?
No. Okay, let's see who is going to help Levi. Sam is not here. Casey is not here. Levi, back to Levi. And it's random, so I didn't set it to if you got picked, you don't get picked again. So you get, I mean, like rolling a dice, you could get a 1 3 times in a row, so beware. Jake is not here. Casey, okay. So do I have a volunteer that remembers how big it is? How big is it? 180 by 180. You are close. Those numbers are in there. Okay, and Dakota, you want to try?
180 by 240.
You're closer. Oh man, we are zooming in. Those two numbers are relevant. All right, so I should have put my name in here.
Okay, so X is 240 and Y is 180.
Okay, in each direction they can go.
Oh, okay.
So for X, we get 240 to the right and 240 to the left from the center. Right, so that's going to give us 480, no, 480, yeah. And then 180, 180 gives us 360. So it's 480 by 360 altogether. Yeah, so you guys have the right numbers, we just have to put them together. And what coordinates are exactly in the middle of our stage? 0, 0. Yeah, so it's kind of like our basic algebra coordinate grid. Okay, good, we're warming up here. Let's see, I got some other questions I was thinking about. Oh, random student, Casey again. Casey again, okay, I get to be Casey, so I don't want to ask myself. Gary, is it possible to draw a geometric figure in Scratch? Yes, it is. Okay, that was weird, asking myself a question. Casey, we're stuck. Come on, Katie, move on, please. Ian, all right, Ian. What's the difference between go to X and set X?
Go to, it just sends the object to it, and then sets it to that point.
Okay, say it one more time. Make sure I got that right.
Go to just sends it to that point
on the stage.
The stage.
Yeah.
And then sets it to that point.
Just sets it to that point. So so slightly different ways of kind of doing the same thing. Okay. So all right. How about, let's pick a new person. Levi. I haven't picked Dakota yet, have we? Maybe I don't even your name in here. Let's scroll through the. Ah, there we go. You're going to get the next question. All right, so there's Dakota. So back to Levi. There's 2 kinds of motion we do. There's really 3 kinds of motion, but there's 2 general kinds of motion that we do. Do you happen to know what those 2 general kinds of motion are?
2 general kinds of motion, like in reference to sprites?
Yeah, moving sprites around.
Would jump be one of them?
That would be pretty specific, so no, more general than that. So for example, Ian mentioned, or I asked Ian about go to a certain point. Yeah. Okay, is that fundamentally different from telling the sprite to move?
Yeah.
Okay, it is. And do you remember the categories we have for those two types of motion, a move motion versus a go-to motion? Yes. Okay, Dakota, do you happen to know what those two categories are? No. Okay, so let's see. If we get someone that's not in the room, then I get to answer. Casey. Okay, I get to be Casey. So I think one of them is called absolute positioning, which means if I am the sprite and I say go to 180, 180, this cat is going to jump and move to the upper right corner, because that's where 180, 180 would be. Whereas if I said move 100, he's just going to move 100 pixels in his whatever position direction is. Okay, and that would be, what's that?
The word.
I know, sometimes I'm not good at asking questions, but eventually we'll speak the same language. So the other kind of motion is relative. It doesn't matter where I am. If you tell me to move 10 steps, I'm going to go in the direction I'm facing now and try to move in 10 steps. Whereas you say, go to that corner of the room, that's absolute positioning. Go to that corner. Whereas move 10 steps, it depends on where I am. That's relative positioning, relative movement. So we have two kinds of movements we can do with sprites. Okay. So do you guys have Scratch in front of you right now? Okay. So which area are we talking about then of our script when we're talking about movement? The motion section. What was that? The motion section of our scripting, right?
Oh, you're talking about the 8 different categories?
Yeah, the categories in the scripting section. Yeah, we have all those categories in the scripting section. So motion is one of those categories we're talking about right now. So can you look at that list, and let me bring my list up here too. Let me get a new Scratch screen going. Scratch, MIT. It recognizes I'm still logged in. Create. And so in motion is move a relative or absolute motion? It is relative because it depends on where the kitty is. So for example, right now, my kitty's in the middle. If I click on move, it's going to give him a little tiny jump. Okay, so I could bring that into my palette here and say move 100, so it's more obvious. And then when I click that, he does that move 100. From wherever he is, he moves 100. Okay, eventually he's going to move right off the screen. And so maybe I should change that. What could I get to undo that? There's a few different things I could do. I could make it a negative, right? Negative 100, so he would go backwards when I click that. How about the go to? Is that relative or absolute motion function? That's absolute, right? So no matter where he is, I click go to 0, 0, he goes to 0, 0, the middle of my stage, right? All right. How about set x2? What do you think? Is that absolute or relative? Absolute. So let's just test it out. We'll go 100. So if I say set x to 100, no matter where the cat is, he's going to go to where x is 100, right? And we have this imaginary y-axis and x-axis here that's guiding us. Okay. If I say x, if I set x to negative 100, where do you think he'll end up on my screen? Not at the bottom. Which direction does x move? Side to side or up and down?
Oh yeah, I keep getting confused actually.
Yeah, so x is side to side, and so negative 100, if 0 is in the middle, here, negative 100 should be, what, over here maybe? So if I click that, it didn't move him 100 steps like this would have. It moved him to the place where x is negative 100. Now, I'm not messing with his y, so no matter where I put him, when I say go to x negative 100, he's just going to wherever x is negative 100. His y could be absolutely anything. Here his y is, oh, does anybody remember? Oh, let me ask this. Okay, let's see, get back to the random generator. Jake is not here. Levi is here. Levi, do you know how to determine what position our sprite is on the screen?
You mean like which way it's facing?
Not which way it's facing, but where in that 360 by 480 grid he's centered. It's centered. How do I figure out where he is?
Where it's centered or where he is on?
Where he is on the grid at that moment.
Hover over him, maybe?
Let's see if I hover over him. So when I point to the grid, I got the, in the bottom right corner, it tells me where I'm pointing on the grid. So I could point to him and I can see he's, somewhere around X is 90 something maybe, Y is 100-ish. Hey, how's it going? But I remember we figured out accidentally the other day that a sprite has a center of a mass.
Yeah, you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, so how do I identify its center of mass?
You have to go into the costumes tab. And,
Okay, so the costumes tab will tell me where the center of mass is. Okay, so I could go over to his costume.
and then set costume.
And then in the upper right corner, there's a set costume thing like you mentioned. Yeah, and I can click that. And that shows me right now his center of mass is right around to the left of his smile. Okay. So I could point and see where the left of his smile is, but aren't I kind of guessing? Is pointing at something in exact science? Not
Could you
really.
place it somewhere that you want it and then adjust it?
Okay, you could
set
place
next
it,
to-
but sometimes we make the sprite move around or we just drop it somewhere. Okay, all right, so this is going on too long. I am going to, let's see, call it somebody else, no offense. Levi again, I'm gonna be Levi. So I think that if in the sprite script area, so this is this sprite script area, in the upper right corner it says this sprite is currently at -100, y = 107. And can you kind of make that out there? Yeah, so that tells me and you'll see it on yours, that's the location of his center of mass right now. Okay. We can always change the sprite center of mass. We can move it around, use that center of mass button. We can resize, we can do all kinds of things to mess with our sprite. We'll play with sprites later. Let's see, let's pick on someone else. How about, Casey is not here. Sam, I have a random student generator here. Every time I click him, he gives me a new student name. So I'm gonna ask you a question. Let's see. What's the difference between point in the direction 90 and turn 90 degrees?
Whenever you point direction 90 is
You're just doing a rotation, yeah. So let's do a demo of that. So you guys, if you don't have a blank thing to play with, screw around with me here. So let's see. I'm just going to double check. What he said sounds right to me. So turn. So if I tell my sprite to turn 90 degrees, then he's just going to do a rotation from wherever he is. And that little arrow on the turn thing tells me he's going to turn clockwise. To get him to turn counterclockwise, I have two options. One is to bring out this turn counterclockwise tool function and say 90 and click it, and he turns 90 counterclockwise. This is kind of a trick question that some of you may know the answer to. Let's pick on someone just for fun. Casey, I could be Casey, but no, Dakota. Is there another way I could get him to turn counterclockwise 90 degrees besides using the turn counterclockwise tool?
I'm not sure if the turn clockwise if you do any different here.
That's a good try. Let's try it. And here's the cool thing. I mean, let's just play and see what happens, right? There was nothing wrong with being wrong. So we try that. We click it. That totally worked. It turned him counterclockwise. Yeah. So negative angles go backwards of the direction we're hoping. Positive angles go in the direction we're hoping. Yeah. Cool. So essentially, we don't even really need this other tool necessarily because we could just throw a negative angle in the clockwise. That'll make them go counterclockwise. Let's see, what was the other one I said? Oh, the other one I said was point in direction. Okay, so point towards, and then I can say, oops, shit, that's not the one I wanted. Where is it? Oh, point in direction, that's the one I wanted. Point in direction 90, so if I click that, he points that way. So let's pick on someone else. Who can tell me what direction 0 would be? How about Levi? You're getting picked on a lot today, Levi.
Basically, the direction of
What direction would 0? So if we told my kitty to point in the 0 direction, where would he point? He wouldn't move. Okay. Let's see what Jake thinks. Sorry, Jake, you're not here. Sam, what do you think? Do you agree with Levi that he would not move? Point in the direction 0. Point towards the origin. Okay, let's get another. Sam got picked again, so that's no fair. Casey. I'll be Casey. I think he would point down. I think 0 is down. Let's test it out. Anyone test it out yet? What'd you get, Ian?
He pointed upward.
He pointed upward. Okay, so that's interesting. If I say point in direction 0, he faces up. If I say point in direction 90, he faces to the right.
You mean 0 degrees. I thought you meant 0 as in the point on the page.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, oh, actually, there is no 0 really on the page. There's a place called 0, 0. And then there's a direction called 0.
What's the direction?
Facing straight up.
So the degree.
Yeah, so that's like degrees. Okay, so I can be more clear on degrees there.
Would then point in direction 360, pointing the same way as 0.
Ooh, it should. That makes sense. Let's try it. With 360 point in the same direction as 0. Yep. What would 180 point us? 180 would point us down. Yep. What could I do to point to the left? 270? Ooh, you're good. I'm not that quick with math some days. 270. Oop, and I gotta tap it. Yes, 270 would point him over there. Now he's not just pointing, he's spinning to get there, right? So from where he was, can you picture that 300 or 270 degree rotation he had to make, which makes him face upside down in this case, because he was facing toward 90. We made him face toward 270. Now we didn't actually make him rotate the whole 270 because he was already at 90. Okay. So let's see, what would happen if I made him turn clockwise 180? Oops. To the current configuration. Turn clockwise 180. He would be pointing at 90. Yeah, he would do whenever I think of 180s and 360s, I think when I used to skateboard when I was a kid, right? 180 would just be facing the other direction. And so he should spin and turn the other direction. Okay. So there's different ways we can make a sprite move depending on whether we want to face toward an absolute position, like 0 up, 90 to the right, 180 face down, 270 face to the left. Now, this is a little bit tricky though. Okay, the directions, and let me get I need a whiteboard to draw on. Where's the whiteboard app here? Starboard, that'll work. Magic pen, gotcha. So just summarize the things we did here. We're gonna get done with this boring stuff in a minute and do some fun designing stuff. Okay, thank you. There we go. So I got a pen. So we have our stage, which is this rough rectangle. And that stage has axes, y-axis running through it, and an x-axis running through it. And we know the dimensions of the stage. Vertically, it's 180 up, 180 down, for a total of 360 little bits, and horizontally it's 240 from the center out to each side, so that's 480. So that's the size of the stage we have to work with. We also know that we can revolve around this, and that up right here is considered 0 degrees. So this rotation would be considered 90 degrees. This rotation here would be considered 180 degrees, and this rotation there would be 270 degrees. And we can do anything in between that. So if we said, if you could consider this is like a north, east, south, west. Did I do those right? That looks right. And I said face 45 degrees, what direction would he be facing on a compass? Northeast, yeah, so 45 degrees would slice through here, let's see, kind of like this. So that's my 45-degree angle, and that puts me in that northeasterly direction there, okay? Which is different from saying rotate 45 degrees, because that just depends on where he's facing currently, okay? And so here is the sneaky thing that throws me sometimes when I'm playing with these sprites and making them rotate and move around. So I'm going to throw a different sprite in here, and playing in the book made me want to use a rocket ship, because they had a couple places they used a rocket ship, and somewhere down here we have a rocket ship. Where the heck did you go? Oh, there's one, spaceship. Let's use the spaceship. It's a cute one. Okay. So now I have a second sprite to work with, and anytime we introduce a new sprite, we get a whole new script area for it. So notice this script area is blank. The kitty script area is full of crap I was messing around with. So playing around with this sprite here, I can make the kitty go away without deleting him. If I bring up his information, I can play with a few different things. I can change his name. I can see his current location. I can see his current direction is 90 degrees, the direction he's facing. I can control his rotation style. There was a little bit about rotation styles in chapter 2. If you haven't read it, you will. And I can choose to show him or not. And so I'm going to choose to not show him for now. And so I just have my rocket here. So if I click back on rocket, I could do something like, right now the rocket is at negative 73.5. I could say, please go to 0, 0. Now, I could always just pick it up and try and drop it in 0, 0. But bottom line is, it's hard to drop something in the right spot. I'm only so good with my mouse, and here I missed a little. I'm at 1016 for the rocket's center of mass, wherever its center of mass is. Let's see, I would guess the center of mass is about here. What do you think? Okay. Sometimes we need to go look at the sprite's costume to determine that, to be sure, because we're going to need to know it in certain games that we make. And so the go-to is a really nice thing, because I can definitely put the center of mass where I want it. Okay. So let's see, I put the center of mass there, and I'm going to tell it to point in the direction 90 degrees. What do you think is going to happen to my sprite when I tell it to point in the direction 90 degrees? It's going to point down? Anyone else? Take a wild guess. It's okay to be wrong.
Oh, to the right.
It's going to point to the right. Okay, I learned so much by being wrong. So that was my first thought too when I was playing with this, and I click point in direction 90. I click point in direction 90. I click again, point in direction 90. Nothing happened. Interesting. Why didn't anything happen? Let's look at the costumes to see if we can help figure that out. Cat costume. So here's the cat costume showing his center of mass there. And he is facing to the right, 90 degrees. Okay. Let's bring up the spaceship, and let's see its center of mass. It's a little higher than I thought it was, which is fine. Now I know. And it is facing to the right. Its side is facing to the right. Now I'm thinking a rocket ship's facing thing should be its little tip, but that's not the way it was drawn. That's not the way it was drawn. So what I could do is I could make a new costume out of this. And so I'm going to duplicate it. So now I have a costume 3. And then when I click on it, I can rotate it and get the rocket ship that I want. So the natural direction of a sprite is its right-facing direction. The way it was drawn or designed somewhere facing right, whatever it was. So for this top sprite, its front-facing direction is that. That is its front. So I tell it to move 100, it's going to go that way. If I try to make this thing fly, is that going to be a problem? Yeah, because when I say move 100, it's going to shuffle sideways, and I ain't never seen a rocket do that, right? So that would be weird. So I'm making a new costume. In this costume, I did my best to make it point in the 90-degree rotation. So now I'm going to mess with costume number 3 for my sprite. So go back to my script. It saved my changes. Double check I'm at 0, 0. Yeah. And now I'm going to tell it to point in direction 90. Nothing changed. So what's going to happen if I say point in direction 0? It should face up, right? So let's see if I did that right. Now it faces up when I feel better. So now that it's facing up, what's going to happen if I tell it to move 100 steps? Which direction will it fly? Oops, shit.
Right.
I need someone to go through my slides after and beep out all those shits that I say. All right, so is it going to go to the right? Is it going to go up? Okay, we got an up, we got a right, we got an up. Let's see, hit move. Okay. It's when you tell it to move, it's always going to move in its natural right-facing direction, however its sprite was drawn. And costume 3 was drawn so that its nose was right-facing, even though I told it to face in a different direction. So this sprite will fly nice when I use the move command, which is cool. It's going to make it easier to work with. Whereas if I bring back the other costume, it's facing towards 0, right? Because its 0 is, its right side is facing 0. You get what I'm saying? That's kind of confusing sometimes, isn't it? So it depends on your sprite. If your sprite was designed so that what you believe is its forward-facing thing is to the right, everything behaves the way you think it should. But if your sprite is designed so that what you believe its forward-facing thing is not pointing to the right, things get weird. And then we have to figure out how to deal with that weirdness. So let's try some move commands on this. So I'm putting this guy right here. Let's say point in direction 90. It's natural orientation. Click. So there's this costume's natural orientation. What's going to happen when I tell it to move 100 steps now? It's going to go to the right. So bang, it moves to the right. Okay, which is a little weird on flying because I don't see any little rockets on that side. We could draw some in. Well, what do they call those? Name for those little thrusters. Just read a book and saw a movie that had that kind of stuff in it. Now I'm blank.
Warp drive?
Nah, warp drive. Just to adjust direction. What's that? There's these little jets that fire to turn, move, like space object.
Stabilizer?
Stabilizer, maybe? I don't know. Like, we'll come back to that later. Okay, I'll brush up on my sci-fi stuff later. Let's see. What else do I want to ask you guys? I think I'm running out of things to ask, sort of. Let's play with something else. Let's get a new sprite here. I'm gonna have a new sprite dance around the screen. Does anybody have a favorite sprite they like? Want to volunteer one for me? No. Fine. Use the crab. Someone was playing with a dragon the other day. I like dragons.
Yeah, that's considered dragon.
Let's use the dragon. Okay, good. All right, so we got the dragon in here. We can make the rocket ship disappear, but you know, sometimes I'm cautious about when I want it to disappear because if I wrote code to go with it and I like that code, if I make the sprite disappear, code goes with it, which can be a problem. Stuck saving changes. Come on, you can do it. All right, well, that's saving changes. I'm going to make the rocket ship disappear. I'm going to make sure my dragon is in the middle of my screen. I don't know why, just some days the middle makes me feel better, but there's no good reason. Set. Okay, file, save now. Does that help? Give it a name. Chapter 2, playing around. Oh, come on. All right, so I'm going to close that window, and there we go, close, bring up a new one. So I can just bring up this one. Just lose internet or something. My recording just went to hell. Oh well. All right, so we're going to do a little bit more play, and then I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to give you guys something to play with, and then we'll just kind of help each other out. Anyone else's computer stuck too? Damn. Okay. So I could just make shit up and draw on the whiteboard here. One thing I've learned about programming and other stuff is I spend as much time planning to program as I do programming. If you just dive into something and expect to start coding and it's going to work out well, you're going to lose lots of jobs and never get hired. We got to have a good plan. We got to have a good structure. We're learning now, and so part of learning is being creative and screwing around. But okay, so here's what I was going to do. Let's say here's my canvas over here. And I have a sprite, my little stickman sprite. So what I want to do with this sprite is I want to make him draw me a square. And so we want to command him to do that. So what kinds of commands am I going to need to make him draw me something? Help me out. What's that? There's a pen down command. I'm going to need that. Okay, pen down.
Move X and move Y.
I'm going to have to do maybe a move X or move Y, go X, go Y, or move, just the move command maybe. So right now, I could say pen down, and then I could say something like move 100. And so the pen goes down, he's going to move 100, and now he's right here, and he just drew that blue line. Okay. So then what I do next?
Move Y.
What's that?
Move Y.
I got a couple different options, move Y or rotate. Okay, so I got a couple. So let's see, what would we want him to do? I guess we could do it either way. Let me double check some straps commands. There's a change Y by, which I believe would be like move. We could try that once gateway time out. All right.
I was playing around with the glide command.
Ooh, the glide command is pretty cool. What's the difference between glide and move? I didn't ask that one. Does anybody know?
Gliding is smoother motion. It actually looks like it's going.
Yeah, it's smoother motion, and what else can we control with glide that we can't control with move?
You're right.
The speed of it. Yeah, we can say how much time it should take to glide. So we can say glide 2, which would mean take 2 seconds to get from here to there. Whereas if I just say move, it just goes zoom, right? Pretty quick. It moves there. So a glide command could help. So one thing we could try here is, let's see, what's it again? It's change Y by. Change Y by 100. And I've not done it that way, but I'm thinking that would leave us looking like that. Ooh, I lied. That wouldn't. What did I do wrong there? That would have gone up 100. So what should I do? Change Y by negative 100. Yeah, we gotta do that. Okay, change Y by negative 100. That should probably work. And if we kept this up, what our next command be?
Repeat.
Change. What'd you say?
Repeat.
Well, if I repeat these two, then it's going to go 100 that way and then down. So a repeat on that would make like a stair step. I wish we were live, because the fun thing is we guess, we try it, and we're like, oh yeah, oh no, kind of thing. It's more fun, but I'll have to be the sprite. So so if you told me to repeat these, I would go like this and down and this and down, like I'm walking downstairs. So I could do a change X by what? Negative 100, that might work. And so then that should do this, put it here. And then if we continue this, I would do what next? Change Y by 100. Now, I'm not positive this will work, but I think that would make a square. So Sam had a slightly different way of trying this. And let's see if I'm back. Are you offline too with your laptop? You're able to do stuff? Oh, you lucky dog.
I was actually, last night I was working on this.
Yeah.
And I was able to do it without internet connection.
Okay.
It just kept popping up. It's like, hey, I can't save it, so I had to keep moving out of the
Okay,
way.
so it still worked. Oh, so that's good to know. If you, so as long as you get Scratch started on the computer, it doesn't matter whether you have an internet connection, you just can't save.
And it's very annoying because it reminds me to save every 5 seconds. Every
Yeah,
time you move anything
yeah.
anywhere, it reminds you to
That's a
save.
pain. Okay, so I wonder why. Interesting. The laptops are.
You're
Oh,
connected to any other web page right
really? Oh, so maybe there's something up with Scratch. Let's go to. scratched edge. Just a minor issue there. Oh, there we go. Thank goodness. I'm curious as to what the hell happened with my recording. Let's bring up my recording screen. And it says it's still trying to record. Okay, so maybe it was just scratch and we just did record all that. So my apologies for people in the future watching this. You could not see me walking around the room like a sprite. All right, so let's try this. So we said put the pen down. So pen down. And then I need to sign in as Gary Parker. Oh, because it lost me. Right, sign back in here. Scratch just had a momentary lapse. Oh, and it doesn't want to do anything. I'm still stuck. I shouldn't have hit sign in, perhaps. Go away. Okay. So let's see. We're going to do motion, and we were trying to first move 100. So let me catch up to you guys. And then we were attempting to change y by, see if that works, negative 100. And so if I click to make all this happen, that worked. So we could just keep going that way. I could change x by negative 100. And then I can change y by 100, and that should complete the square. And so let's see, I need to put him back at the beginning. Ooh, interesting. Once you put the pen down and you do stuff, whenever you tell him to move, he moves with the pen down. Okay, so clicking, he traced all of that out. Another good point was the glide by command. We could slow him down to see it, which would be cool. Let's try an alternate approach, which Sam was suggesting. So I'm going to move this stuff out of the way. And let's see, let's clear the drawing. There's clear. Okay, so the suggestion was after we put the pen down and move our 100, that we do a rotation. Was that right, Sam? Is that what you're suggesting? Okay, so let's see, turn 90 degrees, so we do a clockwise one. Oops, not 900 degrees, 90 degrees. Okay, so what would you do after that? Okay. So you put this inside of a loop, what we call a loop. Okay, so let's take a look at the controls here. And so you did the forever. So that means he's just going to go round and round that square until we make him stop. Okay, that's cool. Is there another, anybody see something I could use here besides forever?
Repeat one time or twice, however many times.
Yeah, however many times I need it. Okay, so if I wanted to make a square, how many times would I repeat move 100, turn 90? 4 times? Yeah, so let's try with a 4 there. So that'd be another way to do it. And I could also put, event in when clicked. That's kind of a nice way to do it. So then I come over here and I click my little flag, and he zips around there. Okay, so we just made it once. And I like to do it. Both have benefits, right? There might be a game where we do want some object to keep moving in some certain motion, whether it's a square or something else, and keep doing it for a while until it's interrupted somehow. Sometimes we just want to make it happen once because we needed to just demonstrate that. So here's the next trick. What would I do to make a triangle? Come up with a way to make a triangle like this. Any way you can. There's lots of ways to do it. You come up with a solution to that. I want to make a triangle. Ultimately, what I want to work on is, okay, if we can make a triangle and a square, could we make a pentagon or a hexagon or whatever comes after that? Other cool shapes to make, could we make a 5-pointed star? Okay, so we're gonna try and develop. What happens if we can draw a square, Can we draw a triangle? Can we draw a pentagon? Can we draw a hexagon? Can we draw a pentagram, which is a 5-pointed star? Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording here, and maybe I'll restart a new one shortly. Let's see,
Do you
stop.
know the repeat loop?
You can do it any way you want. Use the tools, use